Hey everybody, it's Evan from the Grainiac. Thought I'd just take a second to reach out and say thank you so much for subscribing to my page. I saw a big uptick, and I think it's all you guys that came over from Imgur, checked out my page. I sure appreciate it. I know you have a lot of options out there, a lot of how-to videos, but I'm glad you came and checked mine out. Hope you like what you see. I'm just down to earth, everyday guy, homesteading. I don't have the top of the line tools, or I don't have all the little gadgets for beer making, but this is just how it's really done, and I try to really break it down and make things simple and just show you anybody can woodwork, anybody can make beer, anybody can sausage make, and then a lot of homesteading stuff, just fixing things around the house. I try to make things real simple. So if you haven't yet, like the video, subscribe, comment, all that stuff really helps spread the word. I don't do a lot of fancy editing either. Maybe I'll get better at that. You never know. Sometimes I feel a little drop in something or spice it up a little bit. But anyway, thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it. Enjoy the video. I'm going to be making some beer. It's a porter IPA. I've made it years ago, and it's probably one of my favorite beers. But I'll explain that all once the video gets rolling. All right, thanks again.
All right, so this is what I'm making, a Ace of Spades Black IPA, ready in 6 weeks. 2 weeks in a primary fermenter, a week in a secondary, and then 2 weeks bottling conditioning, so putting it in bottles with sugar. Got a lot of hops with this one. Some of the hops are going to go in with the cook, and then some of the hops are going to go in later in a secondary fermenter. So I'm not using all the hops today with the boil. And then as the boil goes on, we're putting in hops at different times. Some hops are flavoring hops, which means they go in the beginning. And then some are aroma hops, where they go in right at the end of the boil. And different malt extracts, basically a cheater kit. This is yeast. I don't know why they sent 2. I think I only need 1 of these. And then every kit comes with instructions that are pretty thorough. And you don't need a lot of equipment. I bought a starter kit from Midwest Brewing for $90 on sale. Came with 2 buckets and a kit also. So these are my grains. When you get grains, you want to beat them up a little bit, roll them out. I get already crushed grains, but you open them up a little more if you just hit them around and smack them before you actually open it up and put them in your muslin sack. Muslin sack is basically a giant tea bag. So you're going to soak everything for a little bit. So giving it some good wax. Gonna open this thing up. And if you could just smell this thing, it smells delicious. You can smell the malty aromas coming out of there as soon as you open it up. This is basically a porter. So open up the muslin sack. Only one end is going to open, kind of like a sock. Pour it in, and then we're going to be steeping it in water. This is a 5-gallon beer kit, and you only boil about 3 gallons, 3.5 on the stove. And then you add cold water at the end in your fermentation bucket to get it up to 5 total gallons. So you just set it in there, and you want to do this for 20 minutes or until the temperature gets to 170, sorry. So I move it around a little bit, stir it while it's in there. Now it's been the 20 minutes. So I'm just letting it drip. Don't press the edges of it. Just let it drip for a minute. This is a trick, putting your liquid malt extracts in warm water. That lets it come out a lot easier when you pour it into your wort. So you gotta get this up to boiling. 200 is boiling point. You take it off the flames, and then you can pour in your liquid malt extract as you stir it. You don't want it to rest on the bottom. You don't want it to burn. So here we're moving it off the flame. Stir it in, and then putting all my malt extract in at once. So it's a lot of liquid malt extracts for this. And basically a grain only kit, you're using, it's quite a few pounds of grain instead of just that one muslin sack filled. It's be like 5 times the amount, and then you wouldn't use liquid malt extract. But this way you don't have to handle so many grains at once, and you don't have to boil it for hours. Instead, this whole process maybe takes an hour and a half instead of 3 or 4. So putting in my first hops addition right away in the beginning. So that's supposed to be in for the full 60 minutes of a boil. A boil on a extract kit is always an hour. Second round of hops. And these are all different kinds of hops, and the instructions tell you what ones to put in when. But that was a 1.5 ounce addition, so 1 bag is a half right now. There goes second half. And these are all going in at different times. One's at 60 minutes, one's at 40 minutes, last one's at 20 minutes. And again, depending on when you put them in is the job that they have. So either it's an aroma hop or flavor hop. The longer it's in there, the more you're going to taste it. And I have a Sanitation Bucket ready to go. That's going to be my primary fermenter. Time's over, shutting it off. I got to bring this downstairs now. I have to get it cooled down as fast as possible. So I have a copper coil that I had sanitized. There's my Sanitation Bucket. I already filled up my air vent on the top of it with distilled water. So I'm taking my copper coil, turning on the hose, I drop that in, and that cools down the wort very fast. You can have a lot of ice in a sink and just set it in your sink. It might take 45 minutes to cool it down to where we need it. The instructions say to get the wort down to 75 degrees or not warm to the touch to put in your yeast. Otherwise, it might kill it. So it cools it down pretty fast. I mean, about 7-8 minutes, I think I had this down below 100. But I know I'm going to be pouring it into cold water that I already have in that bucket. Because by the time you get done with the boil, you have about 3 gallons. So you need to add it to 2 gallons of water. And you need to aerate it. So you need to pour it from the kettle to the bucket to the kettle. And you need to do that a few different times. There's fancy tools, aeration rocks, aeration hoses that you can get, but it's good exercise. I just flop it back and forth, and you'll see the foam that I get. I think that's what they're going after with the aeration anyway, but I'm pretty good at just going bucket to bucket without spilling too much. And at this point, it's cool. So you don't want to touch it at all because you don't want any germs. You don't want anything getting into your wort because that's going to change the flavor. This is the point where sanitation's key. When you're boiling it, it doesn't matter as much because it's boiling. It's going to kill everything. But right now it's real important you don't contaminate your beer. Otherwise, you're not going to know for 6 weeks until you taste it. And basically it becomes a big waste of time, unfortunately. I've been making beer for over 15 years, and I don't think I've ruined... Maybe I would consider one batch ruined, but only I could tell. Everybody else that had it said it was good, so I don't know if they were being nice or if it is actually just me. So back and forth, back and forth. Now I'm going to put a little bit back in the kettle because I need to sample some of this in the hydrometer so I can actually measure the original gravity. The original gravity of this wort is what I put in this thing on the bottom middle of the screen, a vial. I spin hydrometer to get a reading. The original gravity, there's a calculation you can use because you're going to get the gravity when it's all done. That'll tell you exactly where your alcohol content is at. So we're, what's that, 75 degrees right there. So I open up my yeast, sprinkle it on top. Just give it a sprinkle. We're going to put the bucket lid on. seal it up. You want to put it in a dark, cool place. The darker the beer, the cooler the room you want it on. A lighter ale, put upstairs. Dark ale, put in the basement. That's my airlock. It's going to let air out, but not in. And here's my hydrometer. I'm going to give that a spin. Let it bob up and down. Get my reading. 1.074 original gravity. And then there, know my yeast is working. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, and share.